Welcome to the Slade Ham experiment. I am Slade Ham. You're aboard a lit up midnight spaceship tonight. Or this morning. I don't know when you're putting this in your ear holes. It's more lit up in here than usual. It's a dull blue in the back. For those of you, dim. Not dull. It's vibrant. It's just dim. Dimmer than usual because I have the studio lights on. I need to get a low light camera because the vibe of the room changes my mood. I'm a light guy. Are you a light guy? Lights are important. If you're watching stuff on YouTube, how the studio is lit matters from your point of view. The way it's coming into your head. From mine, I want the room to be dim and dark and contemplative. Is that the right way to pronounce that? Contemplative. Which is the right way? It should be contemplative. Sounds cooler. I want this to be a contemplative room, a space for me to use my imagination. And when I got to turn on big bright lights, it makes my brain squint. Anyway, hi, welcome. I'm glad you're here. I talked to a lot of you on and off throughout the week via DM, email, through the mail-in list, on the Discord server. If you're not on that, ask how in the comments. I spent today, we're in the home stretch of the special. We've talked about it the entire year. I might as well update you along the way. I'm doing the subtitles right now, sorting out, making sure, proofing everything. You have to look through it all, make sure everything's right? Typos in the credits, making sure it's all just tedium. And I'm too type A control freak in some instances still to let some of that go. So I'm at a coffee shop and I've realized that I've spent too long in the woods. And by the woods, I mean out of public. The pandemic locked me up. I stopped going out. When you stop going out, like I was just talking to a friend of mine about this earlier today too. When you stop going out, you start to reflect on all the times you did go out. And we've talked about how much I used to party on this podcast and how if I went out on a regular night, and this is not exaggeration, it is certainly not bragging. It's an observation. But on any given night post 2008 in Houston, I was likely to be out bouncing around any number of bars on any given night. All bars I never had bar tabs at. I didn't have to pay. I would just show up and I knew the owners. But we would do this 6 nights a week. At the minimum, I was having 5 drinks a night. So every night, pretty smash-faced. And just driving home. And making it. So if you run that math over 10 years, that's a lot of smacking your car on the ass and hoping it gets home like a horse in the morning. It's like 3,000 nights of rolled dice, me against the observational skills of the HPD. And I in hindsight, But as I go forward, all that's out of my diet. You know, I have drinks with the Whiskey Brothers once a month, some wine on the occasion that I do something social. I've relaxed a lot. Anyway, not going out like that, not being in the public eye outside of the stage, not really hanging around lots of large groups of people. It's made me very, very, very fucking antisocial. And I caught myself today. I realized that it's not, the world has changed, but it is me that is in the wrong. I cannot push against the crushing onslaught of progress. I am not going to be the voice of antiquity. I will not be that old man screaming about his lawn morning after morning. This does not mean I embrace everything going forward, but it means I will not fight against it. And with that comes the realization that a coffee shop used to be a place of respite for me. I used to go and I used to sit down and I used to think and I'd drink my coffee and I'd chain smoke cigarettes until I quit smoking cigarettes, and then I'd just drink more coffee instead of smoking and drinking. But this was my day, man, and it was everyone was in their own little bubble. And the off chance that someone took a call or far enough back in the day got paged, they would go outside and there would be a quick conversation. But the shop itself remained pretty blissfully serene. Today, there's a girl, there's a guy way off in the corner, so loud on his earpiece, making business deals, and he's used every podcast word you could use, everything he's memorized from every book written by Gary Vaynerchuk, or You're Fucking Awesome, or The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Shit, whatever these guys, whatever you can memorize from a pop culture book, this guy is the embodiment of it. He's wearing the sweatpants that are talked about by podcast hosts. He's got the tight shirt. He does CrossFit. He's running a crypto business, or a crypto CrossFit gym, or a crypto CrossFit juice shop, or a vegan bagel place. I don't know what he's doing. But he's running this business, and he's using all the buzzwords as loud as he can, and he's just either oblivious to the people around him or an asshole. Is my first thought, and then I check my left ear, and I'm catching this girl seated right next to me. And for about 13 minutes from when I decided to look at the clock and start timing it, until she released the hostage on the other end of her cell phone to what I can only imagine is the sweet, sweet release of death, if it could be self-inflicted after this conversation. Listen to this girl drone on about how she was this bitch on Instagram, saw me, I looked at her story, and then she blah, 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 and then she blocked me on Facebook, and I don't even understand why this self-centered bitch thinks I think about her all the time. She's the one thing, and it's just this prattles on for ages through various social media platforms, and the bitchhood of this other poor girl who I kind of think probably is a sweetheart, just based on, the context in which I received the information. But this is all happening, and then I look around and I realize that everything's a little pocket of that, and the music, therefore, has to be played a little bit louder than it normally would to drown out the din, but the din then has to be raised to drown out the music. So you end up with this weird feedback loop of self-centered conversation, and everyone's doing it. And I'm grumbling about all of this when my phone rings, and it's my brother. He's asking me a math question, something simple but for his job, and we're having the quick conversation about how to resolve this, and I'm doing it as quietly as I can, and I'm not doing it loud, and I'm doing it with the understanding that I need to get off quickly. But I didn't get up and walk out. I just became one of them. I just leaned in. The same guy saying math on the phone out loud with everybody else in the room. Inconsiderate as shit. Because up until that moment, I was editing. I was looking over video of myself, and I was still the least self-centered person in that coffee shop today. And that's the world. I want to be against it. I want to say it's not right. I want to say it's not natural. I want to say there is a better way. I don't know anymore. Maybe this is it. Maybe the future is 15-second bites and all conflict. And loud and inconsiderate, and we don't care about one another. Perhaps that's where we're headed. And if that's the river we're in, glub glub. I'm having You ever had one of these people? I don't want this show to be a place I vent, but it is a place I talk ideas through. So this should be no different. Yeah, I don't like being forced into situations against my will. And this could be a number of things. In some instances, it's somebody who, I wish I could remember the story. I should have looked this up. I don't know if it's a real story. I don't know if it's a one of those tales. But I believe sometime around the Nixon administration or an election somewhere around then. I don't know why the name Spiro Agnew is in my head. I think he was a politician around then too. Somewhere in one of these administrations, in one of these election campaigns, someone said we should leak a story that said that the opponent, whoever he was, had sex with a pig. And they go, well, no one's going to believe that. Press guy. And he goes, I know, but won't it be fun to watch him deny it? And that's what I feel like sometimes. I feel like, you ever have someone start a fight with you that over something that did not ever occur? And then when you explain to them that it didn't occur the way they think it occurred, they get mad at you for you being upset that they thought that about you. You know what I mean? Like and now we're having an argument about something that wasn't a thing. It's no longer about the original thing. Now it's about how I reacted, which is probably out of line, but wouldn't have happened had I not been not accused, but had it not been suggested that I'd done something. So that's I always got to look out for that. I always look out for people who paint you into corners that you didn't ask to be painted in. Because I'm not good at it. It's a trigger for me because I spent a lot of my life making sure I'm not the dude mischaracterizing what someone means or says or does, right? So when I see it in somebody else, because I know there's no getting to what's actually wrong. And I spent so much time in relationships, platonic and non-platonic, with people who were very good at maneuvering me into having straw man arguments, I guess. Is that the word? Do we talk about steel man, straw man? But where they maneuver the argument into something that's totally different, that you really can't combat, that you don't have a real argument against. And then the real thing just gets buried under the rubble of all this other stuff. And then nothing ever gets back together because you're just dealing with the rubble. You get the top part out, you get to the next layer, and then there's another layer. And before you could do that, there's more stuff thrown on top because that's what happens. I used to have a friend used to give me stuff that I didn't ask for. For a little bit, I thought it was like a generosity trait. Like he would, looking out for me. And then I realized he was just getting rid of stuff he didn't want anymore. And then he would give it to me so that he could use it against me. Hey, man, remember when I gave you all that stuff? Well, yeah. Yeah, all right, well, I need you to do this. And you'd be like, but you can't, I'm not a battery you can just charge without my permission and then deploy without my permission. That's not how this works. I used to have another friend used to ask me if I remembered stuff he did, and he had never done it. We'd go somewhere, he'd be like, hey man, why don't you get dinner? And I'm like, why I gotta get dinner? And he'd be like, man, because remember I got the tickets to that thing. And you're like, well, you were going to get the tickets to the thing, remember, but then your credit card didn't work. And then I got the tickets to the thing. And then they just have a totally different memory of the whole scenario. I don't mean for that stuff to be a trigger, but it is. I respond so poorly to it. I need to know. I think that's what it boils down to in my life. I need to know this is what I struggle with. I need to know the rules of the game I am playing. Because I am very adept at a lot of games. A lot of skills. But they don't all apply to every game. Does that make any sense? I should have thought this through. No, I'm just talking. My new show, the new show I worked out at the Improv. I went back. I was watching the tape. You don't know what you're writing when you're writing something, right? You're writing. You're as Jordan Peele says, you're dumping sand in the sandbox. The first draft of a show is a lot of sand. You go on stage with it, and you start making some sandcastles, and you go, all right, that's this, that's this, that's this. Then you watch it all back, and you go, oh, I think that's what I was writing. I think what I've been trying to say. The theme, it's tended to be survival in this new show. I talk a lot about survivalists and that mentality. I talk a lot about wildlife and the survival mindset, right? Like if you're a deer. You ever seen a deer get a good night's sleep ever in your whole life? You ever seen a peacefully sleeping deer that wasn't in a painting or a Disney film? And even half those deer, for sure, one of them got shot, forest fire. Animals live on high alert all the time. It's not peaceful. They sleep with literally one eye open. Some animals, half their brain is only asleep at a time. Animals live in a world of flashes of pain and fear and movement. It's just teeth and blood and reproduction. That's where most animals live. And to live in that world, you can't have peaceful muscles. There are no gazelle that are good at napping. There's no gazelle who put their feet up at night. The best gazelle are constantly on the move. Constantly living in that space of high alert. Peripheral vision just lit up like the 4th of July. Tunnel vision down the center. Always looking for a way out. Always looking for the next attack. Where's it coming from? What's going on? Can't get caught coming up behind me. Don't let me sleep. Don't let me rest. It's a mindset, and you have to have that if you're in survival mode. But you can't be in survival mode and be happy. That's the realest shit I know how to tell you. You can't do both. They're different muscles. They don't work at the same time. Happiness requires a lot of stuff. Trust, love, understanding, empathy. All those things are required if you want to have an actual, real, uncontested moment of peace in this world. You can't do it if you're in adversarial, everything wants to eat me mode. If it's all competitive, race you up the hill, we all got to get to the bone because there's only one bone. And if I don't kick you off the cliff, I won't get that bone. And I got to assume that you're going to kick me off the cliff. If you're living in that space, there is no rest. None. If everyone's out to get you all the time, the landlord, the boss, your family, the person at the groceries, if they're all out to get you all the time, then you got to live like that. You got to live in that space of impending doom so that you're prepared. It's what I mean about survivalists. If you have rooms full of canned goods and ammunition, you are not leaving your house and looking at sunsets and rainbows. You can't see them through the hordes of people that must be attacking you in your imagination. They are different muscles. I'm learning that. I was in survival mode for forever. For so long, professionally and personally. And those were the unhappiest years. So that's my point. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for ways to explore this, and it kind of all hit home. Sometimes you just put everything in your life in a blender, personal and professional, and this is what comes out. You got to put the oxygen mask on yourself first in these situations. That's all I know, is that I am too easily sucked in to those old muscles, and I don't like them. So I'm trying to this year. I'm working on taking a step back and shutting my mouth before I respond. I've failed miserably in some instances, but you know what? You're allowed to. I hope we got to something this week. I did. I think this was good for me. There's lots to follow on the YouTube channel. There's so much to show you. Click the sub button. It's the greatest thing. It helps me immensely. And if you can, pick an episode and just play it in the background. Find something. Every half hour you listen to ticks me closer and closer to monetization. And I know that's a stupid thing to be concerned about, but as an artist, it really, really helps. There is no other job for me. So come on, a subscription and a watch. That's it. It's all free. I love you guys. Thanks for hanging out. This is the Slade Ham Experiment. I'll be right back next week with all kinds of updates and information and stuff and complaints. I love you to death, and I'll see you on another episode soon.